The night I accidentally delivered food to a serial killer started with 2 hamburgers and ended with police uncovering bodies in a backyard. I wish I were making that up. For years, I worked late-night food deliveries to earn extra cash. Friday and Saturday nights were always packed with orders, drunk customers, and the occasional creepy encounter. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened at 1 a.m. on a cold Saturday morning. An order popped up on my phone. 2 hamburgers. Pickup, McDonald and Appos. Customer name, Kyle. At first, it looked like the easiest delivery of the night. The McDonald and Appos. This was only a couple minutes away, and the destination was less than 10 minutes from there. I grabbed the order and followed the GPS through a maze of quiet suburban streets. The further I drove, the emptier the roads became. Eventually, the navigation led me to a narrow, dead-end street that branched off another dead-end street. The house sat at the very end, isolated from the rest of the neighborhood. Behind it stretched a thick line of trees bordering a dark highway. The place looked abandoned. No lights, no cars, no signs of life. Something about it immediately made my stomach tighten. Since it was so late, I didn't want to ring the bell and wake the entire house. Instead, I called the number attached to the order. 1 ring. Voicemail. A few seconds later, a text arrived. End quote. Come to the door. End quote. Simple. But for some reason, reading those 4 words sent a chill through me. I walked up the large wooden porch and knocked. The front door opened almost instantly. Standing, there was a completely bald man in his 30s. His eyes looked glassy. His face was pale, and the smell coming from his breath was enough to make me take an involuntary step back. It wasn't Appos, just alcohol. It smelled like something rotten, something dead. The man introduced himself as Kyle and thanked me for the food. Since the order had already been paid through the app, I expected the exchange to be over. Instead, he smiled and said, end quote, Hey, I'm Appos, he got a cash tip downstairs. Mind putting the food on my kitchen table while I grab it? End quote. Free money was free money. At least, that in Appos, that's what I thought. I stepped inside. The moment the door closed behind me, every instinct in my body started screaming. The house was nearly pitch black. Only a tiny night light illuminated part of the kitchen. The air felt thick, heavy, and the smell, God, the smell. It was stronger inside. A nauseating mixture of garbage, mildew, and something I couldn't Appos identify. Kyle disappeared into the basement. Minutes passed, then more minutes. Way too many minutes for someone looking for a few dollars. Trying to distract myself, I wandered into the adjacent living room. The television flickered with static, casting strange shadows across the walls. That and Appos, that's when I noticed something unusual. The sliding back door was partially open. Maybe he was airing out the house, I thought. Curious and desperate for fresh air, I walked toward it. The smell became stronger, much stronger. I stepped outside onto the deck. Then I heard it, buzzing. Hundreds of flies. The sound was so loud, it almost seemed mechanical. Suddenly, a motion-activated floodlight snapped on. What it revealed made my blood turn cold. 2 enormous black garbage bags sat near the deck. Both were tightly wrapped. Both contained long, human-sized shapes. And both were swarming with flies. For several seconds, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Then reality hit me. Those wearing Appos trash bags. At least, not the kind people normally put garbage in. My heart started hammering so hard I could hear it. I spun around and rushed back inside. The tip no longer mattered. The job no longer mattered. I just wanted out. As I reached the front door, I heard footsteps coming from the basement. Kyle emerged holding several crumpled dollar bills. End quote. Hey, end quote, he called. End quote. Got your tip? End quote. He smiled, but something in his eyes had changed. I grabbed the money and turned toward the exit. Then, Kyle glanced toward the backyard. The floodlight was still on. His smile vanished. Immediately, slowly, he looked back at me. His voice dropped. End quote. Did you go outside? End quote. Every nerve in my body froze. Ikot. No ikot. He stared. Didn't Appos blink. Didn't Appos move. Just stared. The silence felt endless. I could almost see him deciding whether he believed me. Finally, I opened the door and stepped outside. That an Appos. Eswe grabbed my shoulder. Hard. The sudden pressure nearly made me jump out of my skin. I ripped his hand away and sprinted toward my car. Behind me, I heard him rush back into the house. The front door remained wide open. I locked the doors the second I got inside. Part of me wanted to drive away immediately, but another part needed to know, so I watched. And then I saw him. Kyle exploded out of the house at full speed. In his hands was a long metal rod, and he was running directly toward my car. That was all the confirmation I needed. I slammed the accelerator and tore down the street. While driving away, I called the police. I reported everything. The smell, the bags, the man and Appos, behavior, everything. Police arrived unbelievably fast. Within minutes, several cruisers surrounded the property. From down the block, I watched as officers rushed into the backyard. What happened next confirmed my worst fear. The bags contained human bodies, and according to investigators, Kyle had already begun dragging them toward nearby bushes when police arrived. If I had stayed another minute, if I had accepted another excuse, if I had waited for a larger tip, I honestly Don and Appos. Tino if I and Appos. DB here telling this story today. To this day, I still think about one thing. When Kyle realized I had probably seen the bags, the look on his face wasn't Appos, T panic. It wasn't Appos, T fear. It was disappointment, like he had just lost an opportunity. The delivery should have taken 10 minutes. Instead, it became one of the most disturbing experiences of my life, an experience that still keeps me awake whenever I think about it too long. At the time, I was working as a delivery driver for a small Asian restaurant in town. It wasn't Appos, T glamorous, but the tips were decent, and for some of my age, it was one of the best jobs I could get. One night, during a slow shift, my friend at the front counter handed me a delivery ticket after getting off the phone with a customer. A few minutes later, the food was ready, packed neatly into a brown paper bag, and I headed out. The address immediately felt strange. The GPS led me away from town and down a narrow dirt driveway hidden off the main road. It wasn't Appos, T the kind of private property you and Appos D imagine belonging to someone wealthy. Quite the opposite. The place looked abandoned. Tall weeds covered the yard. The fence leaned in several places. The house itself sat in complete darkness. Not a single light was visible through any of the windows. As I pulled up, I felt an uneasy knot forming in my stomach. Something wasn't Appos, T right. I called the restaurant and told my friend what I was seeing. He handed the phone to our boss. Unfortunately, my boss wasn't Appos, T exactly known for being understanding. After listening for about 3 seconds, he snapped at me and told me to stop wasting time, deliver the food, and get back to work. Reluctantly, I got out of the car. The grass was so tall it brushed against my shins with every step. The sound alone made me uncomfortable. I climbed the 3 creaking steps to the front porch and knocked loudly on the door. There didn't an Appos. T appeared to be a working doorbell. I waited. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. No movement inside whatsoever. After 30 seconds, I gave up and headed back toward my car. The moment I sat down, I started texting my friend about how creepy the place was. Then I looked up. A light had appeared upstairs. I froze. I would have sworn the house had been completely dark seconds earlier. Now a faint yellow glow shone from one of the second-floor windows. Against my better judgment, I walked back to the front door. This time, the moment my fist touched the wood, the door slowly drifted inward. Someone had opened it, yet nobody was standing there. A cold chill ran through me. I pushed the door slightly wider and called out, end quote, hello, end quote. My voice echoed through the house. No answer. The interior looked empty. Still, someone had obviously opened the door. I waited for footsteps. None came. The silence felt unnatural. Then, from somewhere deeper inside the house, a voice finally spoke. Ikot, aquí arriba ikot. The words were soft and distant. My Spanish wasn't an Appos, T great, but I knew enough to understand what it meant. End quote. Up here, end quote. In the center of the hallway stood a staircase leading to the second floor. I slowly approached it. The moment I reached the bottom step, I looked up, and that and Apo's. That's when I saw it. An arm. Nothing else. Just an arm extending over the upstairs railing. Its fingers repeatedly curled inward in a stiff, unnatural motion. Come here. Come here. Come here. I swallowed hard. Trying to sound confident, I held up the food bag and called out. In quote, I and Apo's. V, got your food, in quote. The arm continued motioning. Slowly, I climbed the stairs. Halfway up, the arm suddenly disappeared. I stopped. Every instinct told me to turn around and leave. But curiosity pushed me onward. When I reached the top landing, I spotted the figure again, or at least part of it. A dark bedroom sat at the end of the hallway with the lights completely off. Inside the doorway, I could see the same arm extending from the darkness. Again, it performed that same unsettling gesture. Come here. The rest of the body was hidden in shadow. I couldn't and Apo's. Team make out a face. Couldn't and Apo's. Team make out clothing. Nothing. Just an arm emerging from complete darkness. The sight was so unnatural that every hair on my body stood up. There was no way I was entering that room. I took a step back and raised my voice. In quote, Buddy, I and Apo's am not going in there. If you want your food, come out here with the money. Otherwise, I and Apo's am leaving, in quote. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the arm slowly withdrew into the darkness. Silence returned. I stood there waiting, and that and Apo's. When something flew out of the room. Before I could react, it struck me in the chest. The impact knocked the breath out of me. I looked down. At first, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Then terror hit me. It was an arm. A real human arm. Severed. Cold. Lifeless. Not a Halloween prop. Not a prank. An actual severed arm. I screamed and bolted down the stairs. The food was still clutched in my hand as I burst through the front door and sprinted back to my car. I didn't in Apo's. T call my friend. I didn't in Apo's. T call my boss. I just drove. The nearest occupied house was a few minutes away. I pulled into the driveway, ran to the front door, and rang the bell repeatedly. When an elderly woman answered, I frantically explained what had just happened. As I described the house, her expression slowly changed from confusion to concern, and she said something that made my blood run cold. End quote. Nobody has lived in that house for over a year. End quote. For a moment, I couldn't and Apo's. T speak. My stomach dropped. I turned and looked back toward the direction I had come from. The woman insisted on calling the police. We spoke for several more minutes before I finally returned to the restaurant. My boss barely believed the story. Most people didn't and Apo's. But even now, years later, one question still haunts me. If nobody had lived there for over a year, then who opened the door? And what exactly was waiting for me in that dark bedroom? To this day, I am grateful I never stepped inside. The moment my tire exploded, I realized something was terribly wrong. At first, I thought I had simply hit a rock or some debris hidden in the darkness. But looking back now, I and Apo's am convinced it was never an accident. It was a trap. At the time, I was working late-night delivery shifts for Domino and Apo's. That's while taking a year off from college. Weekend nights usually meant strange customers and long drives through the endless woods surrounding our small New Jersey town. But nothing had ever prepared me for what happened that night. I had just turned off the main road and onto a narrow dirt driveway marked with a faded private property sign. The house sat deep in the woods. No neighboring homes. No streets. Nothing but darkness and trees. Then suddenly, bang! The sound echoed through the car like a gunshot. My steering wheel jerked violently to one side. A loud flopping noise followed as the vehicle became difficult to control. I knew instantly. Flat tire. I pulled over and got out. The front passenger side tire was completely destroyed. The only good news was that I could already see the house through my headlights. It was only a short walk away. Rather than call roadside assistance immediately, I figured I and Apo's complete the delivery first and maybe ask the homeowner for help afterward. That decision almost got me into serious trouble. The house itself looked normal enough. Average size, wooden deck, lights glowing warmly through the windows. The strange thing was that every blind and curtain was completely shut, as if whoever lived there wanted to make sure nobody could see inside. I rang the bell. A young man answered almost immediately. He looked perfectly ordinary. Nothing about him stood out. After exchanging the pizzas for cash, I explained my situation. His expression instantly shifted to concern. End quote. "Oh man," end quote, he said. End quote. "Let me take a look," end quote. Together we walked back toward my car. The walk couldn't and oppose. T had been more than 30 seconds. The man crouched beside the tire and examined it carefully. End quote. "I can fix this," end quote, he said. End quote. "I just need to grab some tools," end quote. Then he started walking back toward the house. As he left, I looked down at the dirt road. Something about the flat tire bothered me. There hadn't an oppose, been any sharp turns. No broken glass. No rocks large enough to cause that kind of damage. The more I thought about it, the less it made sense. I slowly walked farther down the driveway, shining my phone and oppose as flashlight across the ground. And then I saw it. A spike strip. A real spike strip. Small enough to hide in the darkness, but large enough to puncture a tire. My blood instantly ran cold. There was absolutely no reason for it to be there. None. Unless someone had put it there intentionally. I stared at it for several seconds, my mind racing through every possible explanation. None of them were good. I quickly turned around and walked back toward the car, pretending I had discovered nothing. The man glanced at me. For a moment, I worried he somehow knew. But then he simply nodded. End quote. "I oppose. Am getting the tools," end quote, he said, and disappeared toward the house. The second he reached the front porch, I made my decision. I wasn't oppose. Staying. Not for tools. Not for explanations. Not for anything. I jumped into my car, started the engine, and threw it into reverse. The flat tire thumped violently against the dirt road as I backed away. I carefully steered around the spike strip and continued reversing until I reached the main road. Only then did I stop and glance back toward the house. The front door was open, and a man was standing there watching me, completely still. I immediately accelerated away. The damaged tire screamed against the pavement, but I didn't oppose. Care. I just wanted distance between myself and that property. Then I checked my rearview mirror. The man was running after my car, full speed, chasing me down the road. I slammed the gas pedal harder. The distance slowly increased until he disappeared into the darkness behind me. 20 minutes later, I finally made it back to Domino and Opposes. The store was closing soon. Jeff, our cook, was furious that I and Oppose taken so long until I told him everything. As I explained the spike strip and the strange customer, the other employee listened with a horrified expression. Neither of them had any explanation. Eventually, closing time arrived. Jeff told me to drive carefully and get the tire fixed the next morning. Everyone headed home. I sat alone in the parking lot for several minutes, trying to calm down. Finally, I started the car and began the slow drive home. Because of the damaged tire, I couldn't oppose. Go faster than 15 miles per hour. A few minutes into the drive, I noticed headlights behind me. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then I realized something strange. The vehicle wasn't oppose using its headlights anymore. It was following me in complete darkness. Close behind. Far too close. A knot formed in my stomach. I decided to test it. I pulled over near a small house on the side of the road. The vehicle continued past me. For a second, I felt relieved. Then the car slowed down and parked farther ahead on the same side of the road. Waiting, my heart immediately started pounding. I couldn't oppose prove it was the man from the house. But deep down I knew, if he had followed me back to Domino and Oppose, he could easily have found me afterward. And there was no way I was leading him to my home. I called the police. While waiting, I kept my eyes locked on that dark vehicle. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a patrol car rolled slowly down the road. I honked my horn. The officer reversed until our windows were side by side. I pointed toward the suspicious car ahead. But the moment I did, the vehicle sprang to life. No headlights, no warning. It shot down the road and vanished into the darkness. The officer immediately switched on his emergency lights and accelerated after it without saying a word. Within seconds, both vehicles disappeared from sight. I never learned whether the police caught that driver. Part of me doubts they ever did. But sometimes when I think back to that night, I like to imagine they found him. Because if that spike strip wasn't in Oppos, an accident, then I Don and Oppos. Do you want to know what would have happened if I'd stayed long enough for him to bring those so-called, in quote, tools, in quote? I never found out whether that officer caught the driver that night. Part of me doubts he ever did. But honestly, I Don and Oppos. Do you think I want to know? What I do know is that after that night, I became paranoid every time I drove home from a late shift. Every pair of headlights behind me made my heart race. Every unfamiliar car parked near my street felt like a potential threat. For months, I checked my rearview mirror constantly, convinced that one night I and Oppos, DC, that same man following me again. Maybe it was all in my head, or maybe it wasn't Oppos. Either way, the experience changed me. The thought of that hidden spike strip, the strange man and Oppos' reaction when I tried to leave, and the dark car silently trailing me through the night still sends chills down my spine years later. 2 months after that incident, I quit my job at Domino and Oppos. The extra money simply wasn't Oppos worth the risk. And to this day, whenever I drive down a lonely road after midnight, I can and Oppos help but wonder what those, in quote, tools, in quote, really were, and what might have happened if I'd stayed long enough for him to bring them out.